Welcome back, students, to our final lecture, Lecture 3 of Module 6. This is the final 10 pages, 14 pages, I guess, of Writing for Scholarly Publication by Anne Huff. So this is all about revision and submission. We're obviously a long way off from submission, but it's really good advice from a revision perspective. It kind of goes back to, if you haven't written anything where you've submitted it and people have commented on it or edited it for publication or something like that, it might be a little jarring when you get corrections and stuff to your work. But expect that many revisions will occur before submission and after submission. Sometimes when you submit something, it's just rejected and you don't get a lot of comments. If you get comments, that's really good. That's something that you really need to consider. But again, sometimes people misunderstand what you're trying to say, how you wanted it to sound, or the point you wanted to make. So if the criticism is significant, where you're feeling like, gosh, this, I've really done something, poor here, try to think about it again from the perspective of, I haven't communicated this well enough to be understood. Perhaps it didn't have enough scholarly background, so they weren't sure where you were getting your start from. Where are you in the conversation, and why is this a significant piece? So consider everything, in a revision as a way to better communicate your message. And certainly if you have feedback, take it very seriously and do what you can to do the edits. But don't feel like you have to do everything. Sometimes it might just be that it's the wrong outlet for the paper. You want to make sure that you are paying attention to their requirements and that it's a good place. It's something where they've participated in this conversation, or it's very much on their brand to participate in this kind of a conversation. So consider other outlets if you really feel like the piece is being really misunderstood. Revisions to consider. This was a really good list. And the reason I thought it was a good list was because it isn't the bulk of your paper. It isn't the body of the paper. It is not, your experiment. It's not your literature review. It's not where, a lot of the work went in. These are the areas where you're trying to get the attention of the reader. You're trying to make it an enticing piece of scholarly contribution. So a lot of these things are all about that. So the title, the abstract, the headings, the introduction, all of these things are about something someone's going to read quickly and get the gist of what it is you're doing. So when you get, a need to revise, start here and get some feedback, because these are also easy things for people to read and give you feedback. You're not asking someone to read 190 pages. In most of these, circumstances, you might be asking them to read a couple of paragraphs or something like that. The introduction or the interpretation of findings, those might be a little bit longer, but a lot of these are easy for someone to read and give you feedback on. So I think these are great places to start when you're looking to do revisions. Appendix C. I talked about this in the first video. This is a really good appendix. It really gives some very specific things for you to look at when you're talking about revising. Does the title grab attention? And this is something, things like this are things you could ask your conversants, your peer group. But someone who's, interested, at least has some interest in this field, because those are the people you really want to attract. We want our writing to be read, extensively. We want it to encourage many scholars, but the people who know the material, that title grabbing attention thing, I think you're going to get, pretty good feedback from them. But this list is pretty extensive, as you can see, and this is actually just the first page. I actually think it's a couple page appendix. So a lot of really good ways to kind of check off, and there's actually a little grading scale underneath this in the appendix that you can use for other people who are looking at your paper to kind of check off. Is this yes, 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 a minus, a plus, a check, so that you get some idea of where you feel like your readers think you could improve. Other editing tips, and this is just regular writing editing tips, can you shorten any sentences? Do you repeat yourself? Grammar is really important in writing. Even if you're not a grammar expert, you don't have a degree in English or anything like that, you can hear it. When you're reading something, you can it's like nails on a chalkboard for me. You start reading and you're like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Why did they change tenses? And my gosh, we've used the same word, 4 times in this page. So Grammarly is a good tool. I have Grammarly that's, kind of plugged into my Word, Microsoft Word, and it kind of goes along and just, tells me things like you've repeated this, or this sentence structure isn't great. And, obviously in the first draft, we don't pay any attention to any of these things. We just write and write and write and write and write so we can finish. But when we go back, we look to see, Word is going to point out a few, quite a few things actually, spelling and, periods and commas and things like that. And then Grammarly is great for sentence structure and transitions and things like that. So it's really helpful. So just make sure that you've explored everything, and that you have reread and reread and, been critical, critical of yourself, your own writing. There's a little sentence here that says, don't fall in love with anything that you've written. It's really a good thing to keep in mind, because we do get attached, and this is why, having that, they called it a dump file in the book, where you can just put the words, I really like those words. Okay, set them over here and rewrite it so that it's easier to understand. And then you can go back to, the paragraph, the page, whatever it was. But it needs to be well written. It needs to be very well written, especially for submission. And that's it. So we are done with all the formal lectures. We've gone through both of the books. So I'm going to sign off here, and we'll see you guys in classroom.